Raiders, Chiefs, Black Friday, what to look for? Let's get it. Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, November 29th, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making this show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're finding us wherever you get your favorite podcast, that's awesome. If you're checking us out on YouTube, that's awesome as well. We definitely appreciate that. The YouTube page is growing crazy, man. Over 16,000 subscriptions. That is great. That's because of your support, Raider Nation, and also because of the job that my man Ari does on the daily. Without Ari, there is no YouTube page. So big shout out, big ups to my man Ari. You can find him on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. After a day away, we will get back to your calls and texts. We had the crossover edition on Thursday where Chris Clark from Locked On Chiefs and myself broke down the game. Chiefs, Raiders, Black Friday special. So we'll get back to your feedback, your calls and texts. That'll close out the show in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. In segment number 2, I normally talk about what keys to victory? What is it going to take for the Raiders to win? But I'm going to put a little bit of a twist on it today, and I'm really going to look for what I'm looking for in this game from the Silver and Black as they attack the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead and try to play spoilers once again, just like they did last Christmas. So I'll explain all that. I'll break that down. That'll come up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day. Everything you need to do or need to know to get you ready for this afternoon's kickoff. We'll get right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Now, let's get down to some business, some news and notes. And the Raiders made a flurry of moves on Thursday on Thanksgiving. First of all, hopefully everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. A lot of football to watch, a lot of football to consume, many different games. But more importantly, hopefully you had some good time with your family and friends, a little bit of R&R. I know I had a little bit of downtime where I was able just to sit back, relax, watch the football, put my sweats on and kick it. So that's always a good thing. But the Raiders did not rest. They had plenty of moves that they made as far as their roster on Thursday, so let's go over it real quickly. They officially activated Aiden O'Connell from the reserve injured list. We already knew that. He had been practicing all week long. We know he's going to get the start today. They also signed wide receiver Terrace Marshall to the active roster. He was a wide receiver that was on the practice squad. They also placed cornerback Jacorian Bennett and Gardner Minshew on the reserve injured list. So those guys will both go to IR. We know Gardner Minshew is out for the season with the collarbone, and it sounds like Jacorian Bennett's probably going to be out the season with the shoulder injury. I mean, he has to miss at least 4 games. That'll make him eligible to come back, week 17? I doubt that he's going to come back week 17. Well, this is week 13 right now, so 13, 14, 15. Yeah, he'd be able to come back in game number 17. So I doubt that that's going to happen. So most likely we are not going to see Jacorian Bennett the rest of the year, and that's unfortunate. He was having a really good year. That's the real bummer of the whole situation. In his second year with the Silver and Black, he was doing really well, right? And this is something that started in training camp, and he really just kind of rolled into the season. He did some really good things. He was leading the league and third down PBUs. I mean, just really coming along in his second year. And so to see his season get cut short like it is and, having to go back to the drawing board, go into the offseason, continue to rehab, and then come back next year, which I know he will, it's just a bummer that he wasn't able to see the rest of the season through. So both those guys are on IR, and Minshew definitely out for the season. Jacorian Bennett most likely out for the season. They also activated cornerback Kai Blue Kelly and running back Sincere McCormick from the practice squad to the active roster. And again, that's just, kind of basically going through what they had to do. That was the paperwork that they had to do. We all knew Sincere McCormick. Been talking about him all week long. We're going to talk about him in segment number 2. We knew that he was going to get some burn today in this game. Antonio Pierce already said that he earned more reps. So that's something to look forward to. But those were the roster moves that the Raiders made on Thanksgiving Day. I also wanted to go over real quick the injury report that they sent out. It's the final injury report that we'll get this week, 90 minutes before kickoff, depending on what time you're listening to this. We'll find out about the inactives. But for the Raiders, we know Nate Hobbs is out. We know Zamir White is out. Hobbs dealing with the ankle injury. Zamir White dealing with the quadricep injury. JB, Jacorian Bennett, we know he's on IR, so he's definitely out. Alexander Madison, the running back, he's questionable with the ankle injury. He was limited in practice all week long. Let's see. Andre James, ankle injury. He is full participant all week long. He will not start at center. JPJ will do that. I don't know what Andre James, when and if he'll get back into the lineup anytime soon. Jackson Powers Johnson, as far as I'm concerned, has that center spot. Also, Jordan Meredith with the shoulder injury. He was limited on Tuesday, full participant Wednesday and Thursday. He's good to go. O'Connell, he's been practicing fully all week long. Obviously, he's good to go. He'll get the start today. Trey Tucker, this is one to pay attention to. Wide receiver Trey Tucker, he's a guy that a lot of folks think Aiden O'Connell's going to try to target a few times today just because he has that speed and they have some chemistry with each other. He's got a hip injury, was limited on Tuesday, limited on Wednesday, limited on Thursday. So we'll find out, again, 90 minutes before kickoff, who's the inactives and if he's going to be able to go or not, and how limited will he be? Will that hip be affecting him during the game? So that's definitely one to pay attention to. Then Cody Whitehair, the guard, ankle injury, full participant all week long. So he should be good to go. Remember, all the practices were all walkthroughs all week. For the Chiefs, not too much. Cam Jones, the linebacker, questionable. He had an illness. He didn't participate on Tuesday or Wednesday, but was full participant on Thursday. So he'll probably go. And their kicker, Spencer Schrader, he's out. Right hamstring issue for him. So he's officially out, and they moved the guy up from their practice squad to be the kicker. And that could end up being something to pay attention to special teams wise in this game. So what am I going to be focusing in on? What am I going to be looking at for the Silver and Black in this game against the Kansas City Chiefs? Black Friday, standalone game, Amazon Prime. It's only the Raiders. It's only the Chiefs all today. That's it. So all eyes are going to be on this game in Arrowhead. What am I going to be focusing on? We'll talk about it coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of this show, which is Game Time. Game Time has a great feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. So maybe you're trying to get a last-minute ticket to go to this game. You're like, you know what? I don't want to go spend my Black Friday shopping. I want to see my Black Friday, spend my Black Friday watching the Raiders and the Chiefs. Well, Game Time can help you do that. Matter of fact, they can help you get tickets even into the game. It could be already in the first quarter, and they can still hook you up and help you get your tickets just like that. They've got the Game Time Picks. It makes it even easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy theater, and more all-in pricing, so you see the total up front with no surprise fees when you go to check out. My favorite feature, the seat views. You get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. And, of course, they got the lowest price guarantee with Game Time ticket coverage, where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. So how do you do that? I'm glad you asked. You take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create the code or create the account, right? Download the app, create the account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word, LOCKEDONFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Instead of giving you keys to victory like I normally do, I like to break it down offensively, defensively, special teams wise. I have no doubt that the Raiders can go into Arrowhead and win this game today. There's no doubt in my mind. Even though they're 2-9 on the season, someone will be like, "Oh, you're crazy." Not really. I mean, there's really, in my mind, there's no game on the schedule that they couldn't have won. They just haven't. They just have had a bad season, as we all know, for one reason or the other. That's fine. There's no doubt that they can go into Arrowhead and win. Don't know if they will, right? I mean, they're like 12.5-point underdogs right now. I don't think that KC is going to cover the spread, that's for sure. So if you're trying to make that bet, I definitely don't think that they're going to cover the spread. I would take the Raiders and the points. But more importantly, what am I looking for in this game? First and foremost, and I've said it earlier this week, this is Aiden O'Connell's first game back. I know that there's some out there. I got my guy Raider James that is an Aiden O'Connell truther, right? And he thinks that he's the franchise quarterback. He's basically almost crowning him the next Tom Brady. And I'm not saying that Aiden O'Connell isn't, but I'm also not saying that he is. I want to see it. But what I've been saying, I've been trying to caution the Raider James and others who believe that Aiden O'Connell is the truther and he's going to go out and ball out against the Chiefs. Remember, he's just coming off of IR. He's on a short week. All the practices have been walked through. He's in Arrowhead, and it's going to be cold. Right? So, I mean, look, there's a lot of factors that are going to play against Aiden O'Connell in this game. So I'm not going to come out on this show on Monday and say, see, that's why Aiden O'Connell's not the guy. Or even come out and say, see, he is the guy. I want to see the whole body of work, but it starts today in this game. Not great situations, but that's what it is, right? You play what's on your schedule, and this is where it is. He comes off IR. He gets the Kansas City Chiefs on a short week. So, all right. So, what am I looking for in Aiden O'Connell? Well, really, in particular, when it comes to Aiden O'Connell, I want to see how he operates in this Scott Turner-led offense. And from all my understanding, from all the research, all the people that I've talked to that are a lot smarter than me, I've been told that Aiden O'Connell fits in Scott Turner's offense better than any quarterback the Raiders have. Better than Gardner Minshew, better than Desmond Ridder, and better than Carter Bradley, right, who's on the practice squad quarterback. So Aiden O'Connell fits the bill with what Scott Turner wants to do. I think we all are in agreement that the offense has looked better the last 2 weeks under Scott Turner. So I know it's a short week, and I know this is going to be tough, but how does Scott Turner kind of mold that offense to fit Aiden O'Connell better? We know he's not going to run around the yard. We know he's not going to keep the plays alive with his feet. I get that. How can he design plays to get Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Big Mike involved quickly, so the ball comes out of Aiden O'Connell's hand quickly, but also gets it to the playmaker's hands with a chance to do something with it? That's what I'm looking for. So not necessarily, this is how they're going to win the game, but how do they operate with each other? And again, this is more than just a one-game thing. This is going to be throughout the course of the rest of the season. How do they grow together? How does this offense look with Aiden O'Connell as the quarterback and Scott Turner, who I believe is a much better offensive coordinator than Luke Getsy was, now that he has an opportunity to design the offense around him? So that's first and foremost the biggest thing that I'll be looking for. Can Scott Turner mold Aiden O'Connell into what he's looking for to really be the general of this offense? Secondly, I mentioned Sincere McCormick, and he was activated and elevated off the practice squad. Antonio Pierce said that he's a guy that has earned more reps as far as running back goes. So what does it look like? He had 5 carries for 33 yards against Denver. Obviously, Antonio Pierce wanted him to run the rock more. He didn't get that opportunity. Would like to see him. AP said he's earned more. Cool. Let's see what it looks like. Right, this Chiefs defense is not just going to give up the ground game and make it look easy, and just they're very stout against the run. Denver's great against the run, but the Chiefs are no slouch. So how does Sincere McCormick look? Right, is he running behind his pads? Is he running strong downhill? Is he decisive? Is he hitting the hole when he's supposed to? Is he doing everything that Zamir White wasn't doing? And I believe he can. When he was at UTSA, he was fantastic. Right, his sophomore and junior years, over 1,400 yards, double-digit touchdowns. Like, the guy was a heck of a running back, but he's really been riddled with injuries since he's been in the National Football League and got his first taste last week. So, okay, so what does it look like now that he gets another taste? It's probably going to be most likely the Sincere McCormick and Amir Abdullah show, right? And I really appreciate what Amir Abdullah brings to the table. Put that locker room sound on the podcast earlier in the week. Really can appreciate the way that he was angry even about his performance from Sunday. So I know he's going to go out there and be a pro's pro. I would have no problem seeing a nice rotation of Sincere McCormick, Amir Abdullah. I don't know if Alexander Madison's going to be able to go or not. He's questionable for the game. So if he's able to go, he's obviously been a nice addition to this offense as well. But really interested in seeing what Sincere McCormick looks like behind an offensive line that is continuing to grow. An offensive line that now for the third week in a row is going to be the same. Colton Miller at the left tackle spot, Jordan Meredith at the left guard position, JPJ, Jackson Powers-Johnson at the center spot, Dylan Parham at the right guard spot, and then Thayer Munford at the right tackle spot. So now that they're gelling, now that Joe Philbin is the offensive line coach, how much does that continue to get better and evolve? Every time I talk to Lincoln Kennedy, I always ask him, what do you think about the offensive line? He said it's getting better, Q. It's getting better. It's not where it needs to be, but it's getting better. So that also could help Aiden O'Connell in this game as well. That also can help Sincere McCormick. Just want to see that offensive line. If that offensive line can basically stay status quo the rest of the season, and I know that's a tall task because they've had so many guys that they've cycled through, but if they can stay that same offensive line the rest of the way, what a great start that would be for next year, right? To know that, okay, this is who our offensive line is. And even if they go out in the offseason and go and make an addition or two, add some depth, draft a couple guys, whatever, at least you know there's a solid 5 right there that you can count on, as opposed to what happened this year. And it feels like it's been happening in the last, 2 or 3 years, where they don't know who their offensive line is going to be in their 5, 6, 7 weeks into the season. That's never going to work. That's never a recipe for success. A lot of folks want to look at the Detroit Lions and say, hey, that's what the Raiders need to do is build a team like the Detroit Lions. Well, you know what they have? They have a really good stinking offensive line, right? Most of the teams that are really stinking good have really good offensive lines. Right? I mean, and that's just the reality of it. We know how it is. We talk about it every draft season. Build a team from the inside out, right? As much as I'm a specialist type person, right? A guy that like the skill position guys, a guy who's always focusing on DBs and everything. In reality, I understand that you build the trenches. I get it. So if the Raiders can have a solid 5 the rest of the way, the rest of the season, that's already a jump start on next year. Also, what I'm looking for in this game, DeCam Richardson, 4th round pick out of Mississippi State. Look, Tom Telesco, and it's really weird, man. And I guess because it's 2-9 and someone's got to fight for something. Like, people are talking about John Gruden's drafts and Tom Telesco's drafts, and some people are cutting for Tom Telesco. Others are cutting for John Gruden and trying to compare, well, Gruden did this and Telesco did it. Look, none of that matters. What matters is the present. And the present shows that Tom Telesco drafted 3 starters in the first 3 rounds. Brock Bowers, star. JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, starter. DJ Glaze, starter. And DCam Richardson, 4th round pick out of Mississippi State, has been getting a lot of burn lately, right? Because of the injuries to Jacorian Bennett, because Nate Hobbs was out, because, multiple guys are out in the secondary, he's forced into action. And he was dealing with the hamstring injury coming out of training camp. Now he's back and he's healthy. And he had a bad day on Sunday against the Denver Broncos. But late in the game, he bounced back. He made a nice play, ran stride for stride with Cortland Sutton, didn't allow him to complete the pass, right? It actually helped the Raiders get the ball back with the opportunity to go down and tie the game. They ultimately didn't, and Gardner Minshew ended up getting injured and hurt for this and out for the season. But DCam made a nice play and started to grow. Look, I guarantee Patrick Mahomes is going to be targeting number 25 today. Where's DCam? Where's DCam? Like we used to do in basketball, mouse in the house, right? When you identify something that was a mismatch, mouse in the house. Man, I used to like that. And I'm not a big dude, right? I'm only 5'11", but when I knew that someone couldn't outjump me, hey, mouse in the house, feed me, right? That's what they're going to do. They're going to talk about feed me, right? There's going to be guys that are going to be ready to go to work because they're going to see 25 on them. How does he continue to grow? How does he continue to build? Can he end up being that guy? If so, if he finishes out the season really strong, now all of a sudden you have Jacorian Bennett, who you're assuming comes back next season, super strong. You still have Jack Jones that you believe in as a really good player. He's still under contract. Now you have DCam Richardson. That's another young dude, right? I mean, now you got something. Maybe you re-sign Nate Hobbs because, he's on a contract year. But you're starting to see the pieces come together. So I really want to see the growth of DCam Richardson. I'll be focusing on number 25 today, where he's at, what's he's doing. Can he come up with some big plays? And then finally, for the Raiders, Max Crosby. He's had 4 games in a row, his words not mine, that he hasn't got a sack. Now, he did have 3 TFLs last week, 3 tackles for losses, and that's obviously good. He says he's feeling better. His high ankle sprain that he suffered the last play of the game in week 2 is feeling a lot better. He's in the best place that he's been, and he gets up for Patrick Mahomes. So as you heard on the crossover edition, Chris Jones for the Chiefs hasn't had a sack in 7 games. Guess what? You think he's not licking at the chops to get there and try to get after Aiden O'Connell? Well, Max Crosby's going to be doing the same thing, trying to get after Patrick Mahomes. Today would be a great day to see Max have one of his breakout games, 2-3 sacks, right? Very disruptive. Maybe cause a strip sack or whatever the case may be. Make a game-changing play. I want to see that from Max. I really want to see him get a sack or 2 because he hasn't had one in 4 games. But I'd love to see Max make a game-changing play for the Silver and Black. So that's what I'm really looking for in this game. Instead of keys to victory, really my focus in on this game, this Black Friday, this standalone game versus Kansas City. Scott Turner, the work with O'Connell that he does, Sincere McCormick running the rock, offensive line continuing to gel, DCam Richardson's growth, and Mad Max Crosby, 4 games with no sacks. Snap that streak today, young man. Snap that streak today. That's what I got for you. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts are next. 707-654-4693. That's the Locked On Raider Podcast voicemail line. We'll get right to that after I tell you about FanDuel. And it doesn't matter if it's week 13 or week 3. It's never too late to jump into FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So if you feel like, hey, the Raiders are going to come out the locker room and get a touchdown, boom, live bet right there. If you get that touchdown, bada boom, bada bing, you win. You get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And I said it before, the Chiefs are favored by 12.5 points in this one. I would definitely take the Raiders in the points. The Chiefs very rarely cover the spread. Very rarely cover the spread. That's the one thing I know about this team is, yeah, they win games. You got to give them credit for that, but they very rarely cover the spread. So if you want to take a little bit of advice, go ahead and take the Raiders and take the points. I'm just saying, go to FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start out in San Jose, the 408. Let's talk to Martin. Martin's calling about what he thinks he needs to see happen with Antonio Pierce following the season. Here's Martin in San Jose.
Hey, Q. This is Martin from San Jose. I want to give my thoughts on AP and what we should do. Think you got to cut him loose. I think you got to go a different direction, and this is my reasoning. You know, we don't know exactly how long his deal was, but I think we could say it's probably a 1 year, most likely a 2-year deal, because of the whole Cliffberry drama. You know, they said that he wanted a 3-year deal. So who's going to want to come and coach for him? They know he's on a short leash. They know he's almost getting fired. Like, I don't see anyone with great experience, a great resume, wanting to come here. So I just don't see anyone wanting to come here, and I think it's going to lead to more dysfunction. You know, it's already in a bad spot. AP is looking for people to lean on in the staff, and it's just there's too many people in the kitchen, man. Too many cooks in the kitchen. He's just too inexperienced. Didn't have any head coaching experience. Barely had defensive coordinator assistants. Like, I don't think that's thought about enough. You know, I understand that someone that's a leader and that could get people to play for him, but there's a lot of people out there. People like Vrabel, people like Flores. Brian Flores is someone I want. You know, I understand the whole debacle that happened over there in Miami, Tua, but his resume speaks for himself. I think he got fired with a winning record. So I think AP time is up. I think they got to go a different direction, and hopefully Tom Brady could, you know, get some insight on who they should be the next head coach. Thank you.
Martin, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. Trust and believe you aren't alone, right? A lot of folks think that AP should be one and done, and he very well might be, right? I'm not sure what his deal is. I want to say it's a 2-year deal, only because that sounded like that was one of the big complaints from Cliff Kingsbury. He wanted 3 years as opposed to 2, and I don't see a head coach having only given an offensive coordinator only 2 years if he has a 3-year deal. So I'm assuming that he has a 2-year deal, but that's just an assumption. Right now, Scott Turner is auditioning. It's evaluation season, as you know. So we'll see what happens. AP could. My gut feeling, I'll just say it. My gut feeling is he's going to come back. That's just my gut feeling. That doesn't mean anything, right? I haven't heard that. I haven't seen anything that says that. That's just my gut feeling. I've talked about it in great length, everything that's gone on with the Raiders this season. And so for that means, I just think that he's going to come back, but we'll see. Yeah, he very well might not be. They might say, you know what? We can't trust you with, you know, a brand new quarterback or whatever, right? And they would be justified. Look, production-based business. You don't produce, you ain't in business. Those are AP's words, not mine. Thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Sub-Zero Raider. It says, hey, Q. Sub-Zero Raider here. Not going to dump on the Bronco game. The turnovers are directly why we're losing these games. Is it me or is Tyree starting to look like a real G? Last couple of weeks, the dude is looking like he might start getting the game record we need. Also, any insight as to why Dylan Lobby didn't get any carries in the game on Sunday? With our starters out, I really thought I was going to see him redeem himself from the fumble against the Steelers. The return he had is definitely getting me excited with what he can do from the backfield. So is there a reason why he's on special teams that you're aware of? I'm a bit surprised he's not getting any burn with where things sit with our season. I'm good with you asking AP for me if you want. Thanks, Q. P.S. Please, Mark, do not sign Daniel Jones. He is not the answer. He is not Rich Gannon 2.0. His resume with the G-Man speaks for itself. At this point, I'd rather stick with Ritter for the rest of the season and see what happens. That's from Sub-Zero Raider, and thanks so much for the text. And, well, the good thing is Daniel Jones signed with the Vikings practice squad. I didn't think he was the answer either. I know some people did. I'm glad that he didn't sign with the Raiders either, right? Just because it just, to me, didn't make any sense. But, you know, when the injury and happened with Gardner Minshew, I saw the door opening for a potential signing with Daniel Jones. As far as Dylan Lobby goes, you know, it was really not a lot of carries, period, on Sunday. If you think about it, the Raiders only carried the rock 16 times, and McCormick had 5. And I know that, you know, I want to see what Lobby can do. I also want to see what Sincere McCormick can do. So I had no problem with Lobby being the guy that was back there on special teams as a kick returner at New Hampshire. That's actually what he did really well. When the Raiders drafted him, that's where I thought he was going to butter his bread, was by being a kick returner, right? And he just really never got an opportunity to get out there. He more than redeemed himself, as far as I'm concerned, for that fumble against Pittsburgh with that big 59-yard kick return versus the Broncos. I'd like to see some more of that, right? I mean, you know, I talked about things I'd like to see in segment number 2 for today's game. I'd like to see Dylan Lobby, stress the defense a little bit and return a couple. Even if they don't turn into big ones, who cares? Stress out the defense by making them have to go tackle you, right? And he's got a nose for that kind of thing. He's really good in the kick return game. So it's not really that he's not getting an opportunity. It's just, Sincere McCormick got a couple carries and they look really good, and that wasn't enough. So there's that. So that's really, I wouldn't look too much more into that. But thanks so much for that text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Raider D in PA. He's calling to talk about the foundational pieces the Raiders have and how AP has them fighting right now, and shares his thoughts. Here he is, Raider D in PA.
Hey, Q. Raider D here in PA. And I'm just going to piggyback. I forgot who the guy was that said it, but I do believe we are on the up and up. We got some serious foundational pieces. Past few weeks, I've been rewatching the games and just evaluating. You're right. AP's got these guys fighting. They're running on third string, second string dudes who shouldn't be starting in the NFL. I mean, everybody's a pro. They're in the NFL for a reason, but shouldn't be starting in the NFL for one reason or another, and they are, just because of injury. And like you say, it's not an excuse, but I mean, call a spade a spade. But, I really think we got some foundational pieces. I think if we can hit the draft again this year, like we did this past year, so let's go, make some moves in the free agency, because we got a pretty big spending bank for us this year. I think we can do something. We really gotta hit the coaching, and I think we'll be all right. Let me know what you think, Q. All right, man. Raider D out.
Raider D, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, I feel pretty encouraged from what I've seen the last few weeks. I really do. Obviously the results are not what anybody wants. Wins are what matter the most. But just from what I've seen, the way that these guys are going out there competing, the fact that they're not quitting, they're still fighting, they're giving everything that they have, right? No matter what they are, a starter, a backup, a third string, fourth string, doesn't matter. They're all out there competing and fighting hard. So it's not like the team has just mailed it in. So that, to me, is encouraging. What I've seen from Scott Turner's offense the last few weeks has been encouraging. What I've seen from the offensive line the last few weeks has been encouraging. It's all been encouraging. Now that Aiden O'Connell's back from IR, let's see what he looks like. See if that could be an encouragement as well. So Raider D, thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. Got time for just a couple more. Got a text from Max in the SLC. Says, what's up, Q? It's Max from the SLC, longtime listener, first-time caller. I like AP as a motivator, and I do believe he can get his guys to play with him or play for him. But from what I've seen this season, it's hard for me to believe he's the guy long-term. After seeing what happened to Caleb Williams this season, after the Bears kept Eberflus, I wouldn't want the same to happen to Shador or Ward if AP is not the guy. We know Carr had to play season under Dennis Allen, and it was a waste of a year. Been a fan all my life, and I've yet to see a playoff win in 21 years. The franchise needs to make the right decision. I'm not sure AP is it. Hope I'm wrong. Raider Nation, we out. That's Max in the SLC, and that's the point I was talking about earlier. They might look at it and say we can't take a chance to have that same situation that happened in Chicago with Caleb Williams and Matt Eberflus. That very well could be the scenario. And if that's a decision they make, that's a decision they make, right? And you really can't blame them because, again, if you're going to draft a quarterback, a guy that you believe is potentially your franchise guy, you do want to make sure all the right pieces are in place. Me personally, if they do go get their franchise quarterback, like I think they'll do, I think the most important hire is the OC. Not necessarily the head coach, the OC. And that's where, in my opinion, just my opinion, where Matt Eberflus messed up. He went and hired Shane Waldron that did not have a good track record as the offensive coordinator. Just like AP hired Luke Getsy, who did not have a good track record as an offensive coordinator. But he did, to his credit, he did try to hire Cliff Kingsbury. It just didn't work. So if they are going in the direction to go get their quarterback like we all believe that they will, the most important hire is going to be the OC. That will be the most important guy in the building to make sure that he could be on the same page with that guy, whoever that franchise quarterback is. So I would focus more on that, but I totally understand where you're coming from when it comes to the head coach and potentially not pairing him with the right guy, especially if they go draft that quarterback. So thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. We'll close out with a call from Raider Kev from Louisiana by way of Arlington, Texas. I like that. Louisiana by way of Arlington. Nothing wrong with that. He's calling to talk about a few things he's heard and want to speak on them real quick. Raider Kev from Louisiana by way of Arlington, Texas.
What's up, Q? Man, I really enjoyed the show. This is Reddy Kev from Louisiana by way of Arlington, Texas. Now, listen, man, I love the show. You know, one of my first listeners of the day, and just love Raider Nation. Been a Raider fan since the 70s. But listen, man, I've heard some things that I just want to touch on. Aiden O'Connell, I really look forward to seeing what he does at the end of the season, how he comes off this injury. And I'm really pulling for him to be successful. I'm not one of those guys that looking for the team to tank, to get a better draft position, to get our quarterback. But here's the thing. I want the team to play well. I want Aiden to have success. But I'm always going to view Aiden as a backup. I think that he can be a luxury as one of the best backups in the league. And I would love that for our team, right? But I want us to keep our eyes on the prize. And that is Shadur or Cam. That's where we need to stay focused on, regardless of how the end of the season comes about, right? I look forward to Friday. I hope we kick, you know what, out of the Chiefs. But let's stay focused on what we have to do for this organization, and that's get our franchise guy in the building. Let's stay focused on that, guys, regardless of whatever happens at the end of the season. And again, I'm looking for success. I'm not looking for us to tank. I'm not that kind of fan. I will never be that kind of fan. It's always going to be Raiders, through and through for the win. Just win, baby. That's our motto. So let's just stay focused. Let's be, let's look to the future. Let's look for positive outcomes, for the rest of this season. But let's not do what the Giants did. Remember what the Giants did? They put all their eggs in the basket with Daniel Jones, right? He had one good season. They went to the playoffs, and they gave that guy a huge contract. Let's not be the Giants. Let's not have fool's gold, okay? So I look forward to the rest of the season. And look, another thing, one more thing. AP is the guy. Let's not lose sight on that either. You've already, in other shows, said all the issues he's had to deal with. Let's remember those things first. Let's commit to AP. Let's commit to getting our franchise guy in this draft, and let's go, baby. Go Raiders.
Kevy Kev, thanks for the call. I appreciate you. And yeah, I absolutely want to see what O'Connell could do, right? I'm with you. Now look, I don't, my personal feeling is I don't see him as the franchise quarterback, but I'm not saying he's not right now, right? I mean, look, let's see how the season plays out, which is what I keep trying to tell my guy, Raider James, who's just so adamant that the franchise has done him wrong. The media has done him wrong. Fans have done him wrong. Everyone's done him wrong. And it's just like, I mean, dude, he didn't separate himself in training camp. He didn't do anything when he got in the game earlier this season. Then he got injured, so he missed 4 games because he's on IR. So, all right, he's probably going to be in the rest of the season. That's great. That's fantastic. Let's judge him by what he does the rest of the way. And if he looks really good, okay, maybe he's somebody. But I like how you brought up Daniel Jones and don't fall for the fool's gold. I do believe when they gave Daniel Jones that contract extension in New York, that was fool's gold. They beat a lot of teams by 1 score, snuck into the playoffs, got a victory over Minnesota, who, well, they had been squeaking by in a lot of wins. And so all of a sudden they thought, oh, yeah, he's the next greatest thing. Let's go ahead and give him a contract extension. I never thought Daniel Jones was really good. But we'll see. I don't want to put and cloud the judgment around Aiden O'Connell. I want him to go out there and show it. If he can, and this is what I'll say, if he can grab the bull by the horns like someone was supposed to do in training camp, either Minshew or him, and neither one of those guys did it. If he can go out there and grab the bulls by the horns and run with it and prove that he's the guy, so be it. If not, then okay. Then the Raiders can pivot and go in another direction and look for their quarterback in the draft. So, there's a lot of fighting about is he or isn't he. How about we just wait and see? How about we let the games play out, right? We're not going to be calling the plays. We're not going to be executing the plays. He will. And if he can do it, he can do it. If he can't, then he can't. And then the team moves forward. It's just that simple. So I think I like your call, man. I really do. Appreciate it. Really good stuff. Great way to close out the show and get you ready for Raider football. Right? Get you ready for Raider football, man. A noon kickoff Pacific time. Excited about the opportunity to see the game today. Enjoy the rest of the day. Go through the weekend, watch some action, college and NFL action, and be back on Monday, man, and be talking about everything that we've seen and where the Raiders are at this stage of the game through 13 weeks. So, Raider Nation, enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there on this Black Friday. Enjoy the game. Depending on what time you're listening to it, the game might be kicking off right now. Who knows? But enjoy it. We'll be back on Monday. Until then, take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.